Daniel Fletcher was just trying to return a lost dog when the sky cracked open and swallowed him whole. 1 second, he was kneeling in the park, scratching behind the ears of a golden retriever whose tag read, Muffin, which, let's be honest, was a terrible name for a creature that could eat a grown man's sandwich in one gulp, and the next, reality folded in on itself. Gravity flipped. Air turned to liquid steel. A sound like shattering glass and screaming engines ripped through his skull, and then, nothing. Darkness. Then pain. A deep, searing pulse dragged him out of unconsciousness. His skull throbbed. His arms ached. His vision was blurry, but the first thing he noticed was that the air smelled like ozone and blood. The second thing was the voices. Guttural. Harsh. Alien. Daniel blinked the haze from his eyes and realized he was kneeling again, but this time, not in a park. Cold metal. A cavernous hall. A throne, no, a war seat, looming over him, carved from something dark and pulsing, lined with jagged red veins. Around him stood giants. 8 feet tall. Armor like obsidian. Faces like nightmares sculpted by something with too many teeth and not enough sympathy. They stared down at him with burning eyes. Shit. Daniel took a slow breath. Focus. Panic later. Talk first. He wiped his bloody nose with the back of his sleeve, then looked up at the biggest, ugliest one sitting in the war seat. His instincts told him this was the guy, the one who made the decisions. Okay, Daniel said, his voice just a little hoarse. I'm getting the feeling this isn't about Muffin. Silence. Then a laugh. Deep, grinding rung. The leader leaned forward, fanged mouth stretching in what Daniel could only assume was a smile, but the kind that ended with people missing limbs. You are human, the creature rumbled. Daniel gave him a thumbs up. Nailed it in one, buddy. The laughter died instantly. A low hiss rippled through the gathered warriors. Someone in the back growled. The leader's eyes burned hotter. You speak with irreverence. Daniel shrugged. Yeah, I get that a lot. Listen, big guy. If you're gonna interrogate me, can we do it with snacks? Maybe a nice chair? I bruise like a peach, and this floor is just terrible for my back. The alien's claws tightened on the armrests. Daniel had his attention. Now he just needed to keep it before someone decided to rip his arms off. You do not grasp your situation, the warlord said. You stand before the Zarkan Dominion. You are now our prisoner. Wow, Daniel deadpanned. You guys always introduce yourselves like that, or is it just for special occasions? Because, not gonna lie, feels a little Saturday morning cartoon villain. The warrior nearest to him lunged. Daniel didn't flinch. He barely even blinked. He just stared. The air between them crackled with tension. And then, in a voice so low it was almost lost beneath the hum of the ship, Daniel whispered. Try it. A hesitation. A fraction of a second, but he saw it. A flicker in the alien's eyes. A split-second calculation. They weren't sure. Why wasn't the human afraid? Enough, the warlord said, raising a clawed hand. His subordinate hesitated, then stepped back. I have seen many of your kind. They weep. They beg. They scream. You do not. Why? Daniel exhaled slowly. He let the question hang there, let them feel the weight of it. Then he met the warlord's burning gaze, a half-smile curling at the edge of his mouth. You ever hear the phrase, kill 'em with kindness? The warlord narrowed his eyes. Explain. Daniel stretched his arms, rolling his shoulders like he was about to start a warm-up routine instead of whatever the hell this was. See, humans are weird, he said conversationally. We're nice. Too nice. We hold doors open for people who never say thank you. We tip extra even when the service sucks. We give up our seats on buses, let people merge in traffic. We play nice. And you know what happens. The warlord didn't answer. Daniel leaned forward, voice dropping just enough that they all had to listen closer. People mistake nice for weak. The chamber was dead silent. Daniel smiled, bright and harmless. Big mistake. For a single, fragile moment, nobody moved. Then the warlord laughed. A deep, booming sound that made the walls tremble. He clapped his clawed hands together, the noise like steel striking steel. You amuse me, human, he said, standing. You will not beg? You will not grovel? Then we shall see what you are made of. He snapped his fingers. A warrior stepped forward, holding something small and round. A sphere. It pulsed with a deep violet glow, veins of raw energy twisting across its surface. Daniel didn't know what it was, but he was damn sure it wasn't a party favor. The warlord grinned. Tell me, human, how much pain can kindness endure? Daniel sighed, rolling his neck. Oh boy. And then the sphere touched his skin. And everything exploded. It hit like a truck, then kept hitting. Like 1,000 needles stabbing into his nerves, each one twisting, each one laughing at the concept of mercy. The sphere burrowed into his skin, not breaking it, but rewiring him from the inside out. Heat flared in his skull. His vision went white. Somewhere in the haze, Daniel realized he was screaming. Not the good kind of scream. Not the I stubbed my toe scream. Not even the I just saw my tax return scream. No, this was raw. Ragged. The kind that drained the soul and left you hollow. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Daniel gasped, choking down air like a drowning man. His body still thrummed with the aftershocks. His muscles twitched, not quite remembering how to be muscles anymore. Through the blur of pain, he heard laughter. Fascinating, the warlord mused, stepping forward. Your species is resilient. Most would have passed out by now. Daniel's breath came ragged. His head hung low. His knees wobbled. The warlord leaned closer. Tell me, human, do you feel the cracks forming? Daniel let the silence stretch. Let them wait for his response. Then, without looking up, he croaked, Did anyone else taste purple? A beat of silence. Then a snarl. The warlord's claws slammed against the armrest. You dare mock us? Daniel winced, rolling his shoulders. Sorry, what part was the mockery? Was it the screaming? Because trust me, that was real. The warrior holding the pain sphere stepped forward, muscles tensed. Daniel flicked his eyes up just enough to see the hesitation. Not much. Just a sliver. A microsecond of doubt. But that was all he needed. The warlord exhaled through his nose, a sound like steam escaping a pressurized tank. His claws flexed, then retracted. He settled back onto his war throne, watching Daniel like a scientist watches a particularly irritating lab rat. Very well, human, he said. You wish to play games? Then let us play. A gesture. The pain sphere vanished into a gauntlet hand. Instead, another warrior stepped forward, holding something else. Something worse. A chair. Daniel's gut immediately told him this was not, take a seat, we're having coffee chair. No, this thing was lined with restraints, its surface embedded with small, pulsing needles. The warlord's grin stretched. Since you refuse to beg, we shall test your limits. How much will kindness endure before it breaks? Daniel sighed. Man, you guys are obsessed with this whole kindness thing, huh? He flexed his fingers, shaking out the last shreds of pain. What, did someone say, please, at you once and now you've got trauma? The warlord's expression darkened. Bullseye. Daniel filed that reaction away for later. For now, he had a chair to deal with. Two warriors grabbed his arms, yanking him toward it. He didn't resist. No point. Not yet. He let them shove him down, let the restraints clamp around his wrists and ankles, let the needles hover just above his skin. He exhaled, slow and steady. Then he smiled. It was small. Almost imperceptible. But it was there. The warlord frowned. Something amuses you? Daniel tilted his head. Just thinking. About what? He tapped the armrest. Oh, you know. Logistics. Silence. Then, finally, the warlord growled, elaborate. Daniel's grin widened, just a fraction. Oh, you said you've captured humans before, yeah? The warlord's eyes narrowed. Yes. Did any of them? Daniel made a vague hand gesture. Get weird? The warlord stiffened. Just slightly. Daniel saw it. He leaned forward, voice dropping. They did, didn't they? The warlord's silence was answer enough. Daniel's grin sharpened. Let me guess. 1 minute you had a regular prisoner. The next, they were smiling. Maybe laughing. Maybe staring too long. And then things started going wrong. The warlord didn't react. But the warrior nearest to Daniel did. Just a twitch. A shifting of weight. Daniel turned his head very slowly and locked eyes with him. Who was it for you? The warrior stiffened. Burkett, enough, the warlord snapped. Too late. Daniel's grin spread. Oh, it was you. What did they do? Did they start humming? Burkett flinched. Daniel clicked his tongue. Them. You got a singer. Those are the worst. The room had changed. It wasn't obvious. Not yet. But Daniel could feel it. The shift in tension. The uncertainty. Because the thing was, they knew. Somewhere, deep down, in a place they didn't want to admit, they already knew. Human prisoners didn't break. And then, somewhere along the line, something snapped. Daniel stretched against the restraints, sighing. Look, I get it. You wanted someone weak. Someone soft. Someone who wouldn't pull this kind of stunt. His eyes gleamed. And you picked me. The warlord's gaze darkened. Daniel shrugged, voice light. Big mistake. And then, everything happened at once. The lights flickered. The air shifted. A voice crackled through the speakers, distorted, warped, but human. Hey, buddy. Daniel's grin turned sharp. The warlord's eyes widened. Miss me? Chaos detonated. The warlord lurched to his feet, claws flexed, eyes scanning the room like a predator caught in a trap it didn't realize was there until now. The warriors flanking Daniel stiffened, their grips tightening, but it was too late. Because Daniel was grinning. The speakers crackled again, that same distorted, drawling voice slithering through the room like a whispered threat. You really shouldn't have taken him. A ripple of unease swept through the warriors. The warlord's face barely moved, but Daniel saw it. The twitch in his jaw. The flicker of realization. They'd planned for everything. Restraints. Interrogations. Breaking points. But they hadn't planned for this. Daniel flexed his fingers against the armrests, casual. So, I'm guessing you've never had a human retrieval event before? No one answered. He tilted his head. Yeah, you have no idea what's about to happen, do you? Still nothing. Daniel sighed dramatically. See, this is why you should have grabbed a worse guy. You got me. And now he's here. The warlord's gaze snapped to the speakers. Identify yourself. A low chuckle. Buddy, you don't want that answer. The warlord's claws clenched. You think you can frighten us with words? Static hissed. Then sound. A scream. Not human. Not even remotely. It was alien. Garbled. Warped. The kind of sound that didn't belong in this world. The warriors reacted. Some flinched. One outright stepped back. Daniel smiled. He found one already. Fast work. The warlord snarled. Enough. He snapped a clawed hand. A warrior lunged for the control panel. Trace the signal. Find him. Kill him. Laughter. Amused. Closer. Oh. You think you still have time? The room shook. It wasn't much. Not an explosion. Not a weapon. Something worse. A subtle shift. A change in ownership. Daniel exhaled through his nose, eyes half-lidded. There was that perfect, sharp-edged moment. The second when control slipped. He lifted his head, voice mild. Hey, quick question. The ship tilted. It was small. A fraction of a degree. But it shouldn't have happened. The warlord's breath hitched. The warriors froze. Daniel's grin sharpened. How many people are on this ship, again? Silence. Then the lights flickered. Not red. Not the emergency kind. A different color. Blue. The warlord's nostrils flared. Impossible. Daniel just laughed. Because it wasn't. The ship lurched. Harder this time. Not an external force. Not an attack. A takeover. The warlord felt it now. The wrongness. The shift in the air. The quiet, creeping invasion that wasn't made of soldiers or weapons, but of something infinitely worse. Daniel settled back, stretching against the restraints. Okay, I'll give you a hint. You didn't just kidnap me. His grin widened. You kidnapped a problem. A shudder tore through the hull. Something outside, something big, was moving. The speakers crackled. Hey, Danny. Daniel turned his head, voice light. Yeah, bud. You ready? Daniel beamed. Oh, absolutely. And then, everything collapsed. The Warlord staggered. The ship wasn't his anymore. The air itself felt different, like the walls were listening, like the deck beneath his feet had betrayed him. Across from him, Daniel grinned. Unrestrained. Relaxed. Dangerous. The lights overhead pulsed, that eerie blue glow sinking into the metal, the circuits, the very bones of the warship. Then the speakers crackled again, and that voice, that impossibly calm, impossibly smug voice, spoke for the last time. You lose. And then the ship died. Not in an explosion. Not in fire. Not in anything so merciful. The Warlord felt it go limp. Like a nerve severed. Like something had just reached into the ship's soul and crushed it in one casual grip. The warriors around him panicked. Clawed at the controls. Nothing responded. Daniel stretched. Cracked his knuckles. You know, I've got to say, you guys put up a real good fight. Very scary. Super intimidating. Really had me sweating there. The Warlord whirled on him. What have you done? Daniel tilted his head. Like he'd just been asked whether the sky was blue. That wasn't me. Then who? The doors blew open. Not from an explosion. Not from a breach. They just opened. Willingly. Like something inside the ship had stopped fighting. And through that doorway, he walked in. The Warlord froze. Human. Dressed in nothing remarkable, except for the way he carried it. The way he moved, like gravity itself had made a deal with him. The madman. The whispers had reached even them. Even here. The human who wasn't a soldier, wasn't a leader, wasn't anything official, but when people took something from him, entire civilizations ceased to exist. The warriors hesitated. Too long. He moved. A blur. By the time the Warlord processed it, the nearest warrior was already on the floor. Not dead. Just gone. Removed from the fight in a way that didn't make sense. The others surged forward. Desperate. Too late. The human danced through them like they were already dead. Not a single wasted movement. A whirl of limbs, of motion, of something beyond combat. Something surgical. The warriors fell. Silent. Not killed. Not crippled. Just ended. The Warlord's mind screamed. This isn't possible. Daniel sighed, standing up. Man, you always make it look so easy. The human turned to him, eyes glinting. A ghost of a smirk. It was. The Warlord lunged. Last act of a dying ruler. The human caught him. One hand. Not even trying. Not even acknowledging him. And then he leaned in. Voice quiet. Too quiet. You shouldn't have taken him. The Warlord felt it. Not fear. Not defeat. Something worse. Regret. Then everything went dark.